ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time for the Breakfast Bankroll on Wednesday, March 4th, 2026. A balmy 42 degrees live in Cape Cod. I know, Scotty, live in Tampa. Much, much warmer, but hey, spring has not sprung. But don't forget, Saturday night, 2 a.m., the clocks will spring ahead, so more sunlight. Hopefully more warm weather. But first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. Travis, Zach, Guy, myself, Amber, Holly, Carol, Bucks, Matthew, Allen, Drew, Jacob. The list is endless. Come on down, join us today, and enjoy the 2026 epic run. If you looking for some parlay tickets, maybe some investments, head on over to wagerwire.com/marketplace. Get some great tickets up there, some additions to the website as well. Doing great things over there. So without further ado, let's bring him in live from Tampa, Mr. Scotty Webb. What's up, Scott?
Hey, man, we finally get to a point where baseball, we play real games. Excited for that.
Yes, we will be talking WBC. We didn't start as early as we wanted to, talking backstage, trying to get a blueprint on how we want to do this. First game tonight at 10 p.m., then one basically at the crack ass of dawn on Thursday, then a night game, and then, of course, the fun begins on Friday. I talked to you backstage. Here's my headliner. I want to start before we get into the WBC as the spring training games are getting revved up. Teams starting to mold together. My Red Sox, Mayer looking good. Anthony just hit a ball that still hasn't landed, yada, yada, yada. But I think we have to talk, and I'm going to use the word demise right now, because if any team needed a reset right now, it's the Atlanta Braves. And listen, you can be dumb, okay? You can be dumb, but when it costs you millions and you're dumb, you get the slap on the wrist for 82 games. Okay, learn your lesson. But Profile just signs a 3-year deal with Atlanta and gets busted again and is done for the year. Basically, I would almost say career, because we're assuming 2027's out, so he's not going to get paid for this year. He's probably not playing next year. And if you are the Atlanta Braves right now, Scotty, what do you do? Nothing is going correct other than Ronald Acuna is healthy right now.
Yeah, I've said, in the past that I wasn't sure what to make of the Braves. Their offense was really good the year they won, the World Series or got in the World Series or whatever. And they haven't shown that since. Obviously, there's been injuries and concerns and different things. But, now they've got pitching issues. They still got pitching problems. And here's let me pull this up. I don't think I went over this with anybody yet. So Braves, and go to the pitching. And I get it. Some of these teams, they're going to do certain things as they start a rotation and get things going and ramp up, right? But we're now 20 days. What is it? 22 days from opening day, something like that. So these guys should be somewhere in the neighborhood of minimum 35, 40, 45 pitches, and they should be, doubling that up and then get it to 50, 60, and then, 70, 80 and ready to go. Well, Braves pitchers are Bryce Elder, he threw 41 the last time. Okay, well, Bryce Elder is whatever Bryce Elder is and whatever you think of Bryce Elder. But, the one season he's filled in and was an innings eater, and he saved that team to a certain degree. But he's the only guy that's really doing halfway decent. Reynaldo Lopez is coming back. He's made 2 starts so far. And in those 2 starts, he's throwing 92, Jeff. 92. He was throwing 96. Okay, 92 is not going to cut it in Major League Baseball. And when a guy used to throw 96 and now he's throwing 92, he still thinks he throws 96. So he throws the ball where at 96 it gets past hitters. At 92 it doesn't. It gets crushed. So Reynaldo Lopez, I get it. It's still early. They kind of bring these guys back slow. He's going to need a jump in velocity. Strider was at 93.1, and he's a 95.5 guy. I get it. He's going to have to do the same thing. So you got 2 guys on the rotation with Lopez and Strider that are going to are struggling in my mind already in terms of velocity and so forth. And then you got Sale. Sale's fine, but Sale's kind of one of those guys that he has great seasons, and then for whatever reason he goes through these little stretches where he doesn't pitch so good. But you're not going to have the Schwellen back. He's already you don't have Waldrop. So this pitching staff is already stressed. And then if you're going to put Lopez and Strider in there that really can't do what they want to do in terms of replicate their stuff from before, they're not the good pitchers they were. And then you're going to count on a guy like Bryce Elder, for God's sakes. Look, you're not a division-winning type team. You're just not, especially in this division when you got the Mets and the Phillies. So I think that's a problem for this team. I think this team is they're going to need a superhuman offense to overcome their pitching. So I think the Braves are a mess.
I
like them, but I don't like them at all.
Well, you just nailed it, and I just said the light bulb went on. Help's on the way here because they're not going to beat you 2-1. They're not going to beat you 1-0. Help's on the way. Okay. Here's this, lots of times, look at Detroit last year, great start, kind of propelled them. There's certain teams that have these great starts. Then you start believing in April. All right. Then all of a sudden, the pitchers start to round into form. Now, again, we don't know what 37-year-old Chris Sale's going to look like. We don't know what Strider's going to look like. As you said, no Schwellenbach, yada, yada, yada. But help's on the way here. You ready for this, Scotty? Braves open up first 3 games against Kansas City. Now, we know Kansas City has some starting pitching, but just play the game with me. 3 games at home against Kansas City, 3 games at home against Oakland, 4 at Arizona, 3 at the Angels, then 3 at home against the Guardians and the Marlins. That takes us to April 17th, where they'll have 3 at Philly, 4 at Washington, and then they'll host 3 against Philly. So my point is, up until the divisional games, you got 3 against Kansas City, 3 against Oakland, 4 at Arizona, 3 at the Angels, and then you host the Guardians in Miami. There's hope there to get out to a fast start offensively, in my eyes.
No, there's certainly it could be worse. I mean, they could play, they could play the Dodgers and the Mets and the Cubs and stuff like that and get their ass handed to them or something. But the reality though is that they're going to have to win softball kind of games, and if you start to thinking about some of those teams you're talking about, like the A's, that's how they're going to win. But, they're not going to have pitching, but they can hit. That's a team that can hit. They got those guys can seriously hit. So when you put their offense in there and you go, okay, well, Braves, A's, oh, well, shit, there's better bet overs. I mean, there's going to be 10, 15 runs in these games. So anyway, point being is I think there's a lot that helps the Braves in that particular situation, and maybe they hang around. But I still think the issue is going to be is, how much help do you get? Because, I don't know that Reynaldo Lopez is going to be 97 mile an hour, 96 mile an hour Reynaldo Lopez. And I don't know what you're going to get from Strider anymore. If is the third baseman going to hit, 40 home runs, 30 home runs, or is he going to hit 20? Or is he going to hit close to 300, or is he going to hit, 220? What about the first baseman? Is he going to hit 50 home runs, or is he going to, the Baldwin was the primary catcher last year. Well, he's not going to be the primary catcher, but Murphy's not ready to go yet. So I don't know what's going to go on there. Albies is, just, he's on that decline, off the cliff. And, I don't think they've ever solved their shortstop problem. They tried to. They signed the guy that was the Padres, the Oriental guy, and then he goes and does something and hurts himself, so he's not able to play. So, they got Acuna in the outfield. Okay, well, who else is their outfield? I mean, think about what they got out there. Profar was supposed to be out there, but Profar is not playing. So, my mind, this team is now not as good as the Phillies. I just throw it out there. I don't think they're as good as the Phillies. I think that they're in a struggle spot, just like they were a year ago. And and they got a new manager now too, who has got to try to put all this together. And this is not a team that has those guys like they used to have, where we're just going to call this guy up and he can come up here and he can pitch a game or two for us and be all right. They don't have those guys. So I think that puts them behind. And I saw it today. Today was the first day that the Fangraphs model dropped them in terms of wins. And in my model now, they've dropped behind the Phillies. And, at the very beginning, it was Braves, Mets, and then Phillies. And then the Mets overtook the Braves. And now the Phillies have overtaken the Braves. They're still showing the Phillies or the Braves to be a playoff caliber team. But I find that a little bit of a stretch at this point, to be honest. I don't know that they make the playoffs. I mean, I know they got Ronald Acuna Jr. And just talking about WBC and that team that he played. He plays for Venezuela. Venezuela got beat yesterday. And who did they get beat by? They got beat by who was it? It was Venezuela played Houston. Venezuela scored 1 run. That's not, you didn't see that from Dominican Republic, and you didn't see that from Team USA, and you haven't seen that from Japan. Those super teams, they go do that stuff. So I think you're going to really have to these guys that play over from the islands. they grow up so poor that they're in a scenario where they're excellent baseball players, and then it's I got to get off the island and do everything I can do to do this, and it becomes a me thing instead of a team oriented game. And then when they start to make it bigger and they do this different stuff, they don't fit in. They're great players, don't get me wrong, but they don't make great teammates, and they don't make great team atmosphere guys. So we'll see what all that plays out and kind of looks like. I was happy to see some of the stuff that happened yesterday in some of these spring training games, but I was very surprised Venezuela didn't score a bunch of runs. And I was sort of surprised that some of the other games too that came out. Like when I tell you these teams, some of them don't have the potential to score runs. I seriously mean it. Like Cuba scored one run yesterday. Cuba. Oh, they didn't score any. They scored 0 runs yesterday. And Panama, they didn't score any runs, and they scored 1 maybe or 2. These teams, Colombia, they didn't score any runs. So it's amazing when you sit there and you go, like, these guys are good, but at the same time that they're good, that they don't have what Team USA has or Team Japan has or Dominican Republic. They don't have those guys that just are the main, the guys that produce all the runs. They don't have any of them, so they don't score.
Well, we got a couple games tomorrow, Thursday. We're going to talk. I'm going to have you talk what's up. Again, the lines are really not out there. We have some lines for tonight's game at 10. Be 2 games tomorrow, then a 5 a.m. Japan game on Friday, but we'll come in Friday morning after that game to talk USA and the rest of the pool, figure out where we're going to be during the weekend here. I just was doing some quick summary work again. Pool play right now, Puerto Rico, Pool A, -125. Canada still at +330, and Cuba right now at +700. Colombia now at +550, by the way. So in Pool A, Puerto Rico the favorite, Canada +330, Colombia +550. Pool B, USA -800, Mexico 600. Pool C, Japan -575, South Korea +800, and in Pool D, DR, Dominican Republic -160, Venezuela +150 there. But take over from there again. Some USA put up a bazillion runs yesterday. They did what we expected them to do. But thoughts on what you saw yesterday, and then, of course, game tonight, and then what you can do for tomorrow before we get back on Friday.
Well, you can see a little bit about some of these teams and what they look like. So I was in. Obviously, I made 2 bets. My bets are on Canada. I bet Canada to win Pool A, and I bet Canada to advance in Pool A. So I wanted to watch Canada play a little bit, and it wasn't shocking to me at how Canada played in that game. Canada got behind early in that game. They had Logan Allen on the mound. Obviously he's a guy, a Major League Baseball player, but when you're playing against Toronto, Toronto, a team that made it to the World Series last year, of course, they don't have the big first baseman's not there, and so Guerrero Jr. Because he's with Dominican now. So some of these teams, when you look at them and what they look like, like the Yankees and all these teams that have their guys all gone, they don't look the same. So anyway, they're a little bit down, but still have great players in their lineup, better probably than what Team Canada's players are. And certainly on the mound, holy crap, they had Kevin Gausman on the mound yesterday pitching for them against Team Canada. Team Canada struggled at the beginning. They got behind 7-0. That's not good. But then when, they said, okay, Gausman, you're done, they put in the other guys. Canada scored 7 runs and made it 7-7. And then at the end of the game, I think one of the guys for Toronto hit a 3-run home run and made it 10-7, and that's how it ended. But that's sort of how I saw that pool. I was a little surprised to see that Puerto Rico scored some runs yesterday. And if you look at their lineup yesterday was atrocious. Where is it? Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico beat Boston yesterday 5-3. But the lineup for that game, if you go look at box score, Puerto Rico, here we go. Puerto Rico scored 3 runs in the first inning. They have Willie Castro. Okay, now Willie Castro is a good player, but would you consider him a big run producer? Absolutely not. And then Helio Ramos, he's their best hitter that they got. And then they have Arenado, playing third base. And then I don't know who Cortez is. Who's Cortez? Cortez is Carlos Cortez. He's a minor leaguer for the A's who batting fourth for that team. And then you got guys you never heard of that they have. MJ Melendez is on that team, and the Rivera brothers, and they have Martin Maldonado. Where's the runs and the power and all that stuff going to come from this team? It's not. And their best pitcher's Lugo. So it's not like this is a dynamite team. So I was a little surprised. They scored 3 runs in the first inning and then scored 2 from that point forward. And that's against a depleted Red Sox team. And the Red Sox had some of their guys out there, but it's still a depleted team. And they didn't throw anybody against them much. So we'll see kind of how that transfers over. But think about that. That's that Puerto Rico offense. And I told you I liked Cuba. And Cuba can pitch. They just can't hit. You won't recognize any of the guys except for Moncada. Moncada plays for that team. But you won't recognize any of those guys' names. But they got a couple guys that can pitch. So they're a bunch of slappy hitters too. But that's not the way Team Canada is. When you look at Team Canada, where did Canada go? They're up here. There they are. Canada scored 7 runs yesterday, and their lineup had Black, who's a guy from San Francisco. He's a pretty good player, younger kid. He's our leadoff guy. I didn't like having Abraham Toro bat second, by the way, but that's decent hitter, not a great run producer or anything. But and then you have Josh Naylor, for God's sakes. Josh Naylor, that's pretty good. It's a 30 home run guy, 100 RBI guy right there. And then O'Neill, who now plays for Tyler O'Neill, who now plays for the Orioles. He's another 30 home run guy. And then they have Cassie. He's the guy that the Cubs traded over to Miami. Young kid, big home run hitting kind of kid, good power. And then they have Otto Lopez. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with Otto Lopez, but he's a decent hitter. He's not a big power guy, but he's a shortstop. Decent average, good player, plays for Miami. Good player. Davidson's an older player that was out of Kansas, was out of Canada before. Used to be a power hitter a long time ago, but he's kind of an old guy, hang arounder guy. And then they have Bo Naylor, and then Denzel Clark or whatever the guy's name is. That's the center fielder for the A's. So that's their lineup, and they did pretty well. Other than they had to deal with Kevin Gausman there, and Gausman was getting them out. I think they scored 1 against Gausman, maybe. I don't remember. No, I don't think so. They scored 2 in the 6th, 1 in the 7th, and 4 in the 8th against the bullpen for when Toronto put in their guys, and Logan Allen was awful. Logan gave up 7 runs in 2 innings, and then they didn't score. So Toronto didn't score on the bullpen for Kansas for until the very end for Canada. So that's, to me, that kind of really sums up where I think that pool is. My opinion. I know it's one game and all that stuff, but when you put it together and you kind of look at it, you go, when they start playing each other and the caliber of the opponent is less, I think you're going to see Canada score some runs. I don't think you're going to see Puerto Rico score a lot. And then it just depends on whether Puerto Rico actually can get out, because as you said, the lines are changing a little bit. Colombia is now, third ahead of Cuba, but I don't think Colombia is going to score many runs. It's kind of like Panama; they're not going to score many runs. They guys got all these little tiny guys that just slap the ball around. So you need some power, you need some thump, and that was kind of what you saw from the Dominican Republic yesterday. They got behind like 4-0 in that game. I think it was 4-0. The Dominican Republic, they played obviously in the Dominican, and though they got behind 3-0. It was 3-0, and then they scored 3 runs in the second inning, made it 3-3. Then it was 4-3, and then it was 8-4, and then it was over. That game ended up being 12-4 with the Dominican Republic. They hit. Where is it? I'm trying to remember how many home runs they hit. Where is it? There it is. Juan Soto hit a home run. Manny Machado hit a home run. Caminero hit a home run. They had a triple from Perdomo, a triple from Pena, and a double from Tatis. And then they have their bullpen guys. Their bullpen guys, when you think about it, they got Soto throws 100 miles an hour, Santana, Dominguez, Estevez, and Uribe, and Doval, and Peralta. I mean, just 98, 99, bing, 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 just coming right in. So, as long as that team hits for power, they're going to score a bunch of runs. Then, especially against the lower caliber of opponent. Now, Detroit, was Detroit. Detroit threw Madden and Singlinger and Herter and Hannafy, and they didn't threw nobody. So when they get up there and they can see those kind of guys, that's what you're going to see, and certainly that's what Team USA did. Team USA, what was that, 15-1 or something like that? Team USA does the same thing. That they bomb these teams, and you'll see that. Like, think about this: Team USA beat the Giants 15-1, and they're going to play Brazil first game, and Brazil's going to throw whoever Brazil throws. USA, they're going to throw Scooble, and Brazil played yesterday. They played a game yesterday. They played the A's, Athletics. And the Athletics beat Brazil 14-4, and the game was called because of a mercy rule. What do you think Team USA is going to do to that team? I mean, come on. So when you think about this tournament, think about this: Canada's going to be halfway decent, but they're not going to match up to Team USA or none of that. So don't get me wrong. They're not going to match up to that. It's like the Netherlands. The Netherlands scored how many runs yesterday? The Netherlands beat Baltimore. They scored 8 runs against Baltimore, and Trevor Rogers pitched. And Trevor Rogers got beat up yesterday. So some of these teams can hit because they got good players on them. And the Netherlands has, I know it sounds really weird, they're the Netherlands, but trust me, they got some pretty good hitters on that team. So anyway, as you start to look at this, you got to find your spots for the WBC. And I've said before, don't be afraid of the run line. Now, when I say don't be afraid of the run line, I'm only talking about when you're betting on the teams that can score runs. When you're talking about Japan, when you're talking about Team USA, when you're talking about Dominican Republic, don't be afraid of the run line with those teams, because no matter who starts for the other team, when they get to the bullpen, they're going to score 30. It's just kind of sort of the way it is. So don't be afraid of that, which leads into some of this stuff that we're going to talk about with tonight's game and tomorrow's games. So tonight, you have a matchup between Chinese Taipei and Australia. I was hoping for some good stuff. I think it kind of opened similar to where I thought it might. In my pre-work and what I'm looking at, the way my AI put it out there, he thought it was going to be minus 180-ish, somewhere in there. With Chinese Taipei being the favorite. And the truth is that's really what it opened. I was up at 5:30 this morning, not because I was looking for this line, but as I was doing that, I was looked at the line, and it was I was able to bet that line at Profit X at minus 180. Then I looked at, where else it was available, and it was minus 190 at a lot of places, and it was minus 200 or so at the Hard Rock. So that's kind of where we were thinking it might open. I was hoping it was going to open a little lower. I wanted to bet Chinese Taipei in this game because the way the handicap comes out and the way it works, they're just a much better team, and I'll explain that in a minute. However, if you go look at the line right this minute, the number right now at FanDuel, I'll refresh it just to make sure I get a good number, is minus 230. The number at DraftKings, we'll refresh it. I think it's higher. It's minus 245. The number at Profit X is 240, and the number at Hard Rock is 250. Now, having said all of those things, that's too much in this game. And the reason I tell you it's too much in this game is because, if you're going to bet Team USA is minus 250, great. You know what you're getting with Team USA. When you're betting on, Chinese Taipei, you're not knowing exactly what you're getting. Now, this is a mismatch. Don't get me wrong. Chinese Taipei is the better team, but it should be 180, not 250. So that said, that starts to change the dynamics a little bit about how to figure out what you're going to do in terms of betting on this particular game. So first of all, you got to figure out who the pitchers are. So let me go to my numbers here. And the pitchers are, there's a guy, I don't know how they say their names, Joe hyphen J-O hyphen HSI hyphen HSU. That's the pitcher for Chinese Taipei. He's not their best pitcher. He's like their second best pitcher. And he's going to touch 98. He's going to probably average somewhere around 94, 95. He's a strikeout guy. He's a good control guy. But remember, these are 65 pitches. So I think he's going to get some strikeouts. I don't think Team Australia is going to hit him much. So I think what you're going to end up seeing here is, Australia not doing a whole lot with that guy. And on the other side, you've got a guy. His name is Wells. Yeah, it's not. I forget what his first name is right off the top of my head. Anyway, his name's Wells. Wells is a former kind of also ran big leaguer. He pitched in the KBO a lot. He's pitched, in some of the minor, in some of these other leagues. He's not going to touch 90. He's a soft tosser guy. He's a lefty. He's going to be a guy that's trying to induce soft contact. It's a command control kind of pitcher. So what does that mean? That means that Chinese Taipei is not going to strike out. They're going to go up there and they're going to be able to slap the ball around. These are going to be, and I don't mean to be stereotypical, but these are going to be, 5'7", 5'8" players that weigh 165 to 175 pounds. They're not big guys. They're going to be baseball players slapping the ball all over the place and running with speed and being athletic, and that's how they're going to play. Australia is going to be bigger than that. So when you kind of start thinking about, how this game flow looks and what it looks like, two things come to mind. A, the starting pitcher for Chinese Taipei is much better. And then B, they have a much, much better bullpen. Their bullpen is made up of guys that are KBO and NPL. NPL is the Japanese league. Guys that they're going to do just fine in this competition against Australia. Australia doesn't have that. They don't have guys that are going to go out and be bullpen guys that throw 98, 100 miles an hour and come into this game and save it. They're going to be guys that don't throw 90. That really, really puts Chinese Taipei in a good spot. So the numbers aren't out there to where I want to try to tell you how to bet the game, but I'm going to tell you what to look for. first of all, expect a lower scoring game. In the Tokyo Dome, it's pitcher friendly. It's a big, spacious place. It's very pitcher friendly. I think you'll see Australia not score many. I'm not saying that you're going to see Chinese Taipei go out there and score 15, but I think if they're going to score, they're the team that will do it. So I think that sets up this. You're going to look at whatever the total in this game is, hope that it's 8.5 or more. And then you want to bet under 8.5 or more. That's a bet that you can make. Another bet you can make is a team total bet on Australia under 3.5 or 4. So you want to look for those two numbers in particular. And then another number that I kind of think you want to look at that I think makes some sense is I think Chinese Taipei is going to be ahead of this game in the first 5 innings because they're not going to they're going to be able to make contact off this pitcher. So that means that, if they're minus a half a run in the first 5 innings, you might be able to get a decent number. I wouldn't go crazy, but I think that any of those numbers that you can get that are decent prices, that's the way to bet this game. I think the number right now, and I'm going to teach this all season long. So the number one thing I'm going to tell you is you bet value in baseball. Well, the value is on Australia. If the line should have been 180, 190, 200, and it's 230, 240, 250, you've got a lot of value on the Australia side. I'm not going to bet the Australia side. So I'm trying to get to a point where I want to look at other ways and means to back what I think is a better pitching matchup for Chinese Taipei. So that's what I'm looking at for this game. The next 2 games, I'm going to be just telling you flat out. When I pull these up, let me get the schedule so that I get it right. You have bang, there you go. So I can do it this way faster. Bam, there it is. So you have the Czech team against South Korea at 5:00 in the morning on Thursday morning. Korea's going to be 400 favorites, maybe more. That's going to create some very big issues on how do you bet that game. And I'm going to tell you the only way to look at that game will be to bet Korea on the run line. You don't want to have anything to do with Czech team. That's going to be one of those teams that, a lot of the players are part-time players, if you want to call it that. And then later on that night, Australia, who's playing today, is going to play the Czech team. Well, Australia is going to be big favorites against the Czech team too. So the question then becomes as well, what does that look like? It's too big. Meaning that the value will be on the Czech side because again, you're going to match up these pitchers that aren't going to be quality pitchers and blah, all this stuff. So the Czech team might be the worst team in all of these teams. So anyway, all that being said, I think those 2 games are going to be very difficult to bet because of the Czech thing being involved. I was working with the AI and we were talking about how do you take advantage of that team being bad? I don't think you can. I think the numbers are going to be way out of whack. So it's going to be really hard to find the value to bet against them and then trust the side you're betting on. Like if you're going to bet Korea, a bunch of KBO guys who will be better than the Chinese Taipei team, but you still got to score a whole bunch of runs to cover these numbers. So are you going to bet them to do that? I don't know. I don't know if I trust all that. So anyway, all that being said, I think the best bet tonight is to look at what we just talked about, under 8.5. See if you can find Chinese Taipei in the first 5 innings, minus a half a run. What does that number look like? And bet Team Australia, team totals under, 3.5, under 4. If you can get those numbers. I don't know what they're going to look like yet. So those are where I would tell you to go. And I would tell you to stay off of probably Friday games. Thursday games. I'm sorry, and then Friday we got a whole slew of games. Japan, for example, they play at 5 o'clock in the morning against this Chinese Taipei team. Look, Japan will be minus 300 in that game. They're going to be huge favorites. So that's going to be the same thing with a lot of those games. I already sort of sample lined some of that stuff where is it? I had my AI kind of looking at some of these things, and we were talking about that stretch of games, and we were looking at where some of this stuff on that day. I'm trying to get it up. Here it is. So USA Brazil, that might be minus 600 to 800 for Team USA. Mexico against Great Britain, Mexico minus 300, minus 400. Dominican Republic against Nicaragua, minus 550, something like that. Netherlands and Venezuela, minus 200 to 250. And obviously these are all dependent on pitchers and and all the other stuff. But Puerto Rico against Colombia, we thought might be one of the better lines. Puerto Rico minus 130, minus 150. So there's going to be big spreads, but or big lines. But that's where you want to really look at what the money line is going to have to offer in those games. And we'll talk about those games on Friday before they kind of kick off, if you want to call it that.
And it's funny when you're talking big spreads, minus 800, minus 700, minus 600. For the people that aren't used to run lines, you're not going to, for instance, it's a math equation. If the under over in USA and Brazil was 14 and a half, USA minus 800. Well, you got to peel the layer back a little more. So it is. I go to the team totals next. Well, if they don't produce a team total, you could have a run line, Scotty, of 5.5 or 6.5. And so initially, let's just say USA is minus 6.5 on the run line. Well, that gets you to that 10-4, the projection. The under was 14.5. The run line 6.5. Therefore, technically, it's 10-4. The brain goes, can USA get to 11 or better? Well, some of these sites might not offer team totals. They might not, So again, early in this tournament, I would suggest to beware, buyer beware, to be cautious. There's one that's going to slip through the cracks. It does every year. I think 2 years ago, wasn't it Mexico that came out of nowhere, Scotty?
Yeah, well, Mexico was in 2023. Mexico played Japan, and the winner of that game went to the final. And Mexico was beating Japan until Japan won in the ninth inning. I was at the game. So that was a phenomenal end to a game. Randy Arozarena was great for Mexico that year, that season. Yes, there's going to be like who would have thought that Team Australia would have even got out of their pool that year, but they did. There's always some kind of weird shit that happens in these things because it's baseball. When you can have the best team in the world, Team USA, for example, and play Brazil, and they can play 100 times. Well, Brazil's going to win at least twice.
So me and Scotty will be back on Friday. We don't have a set time. We're going to try to get here early because I'm not that early for the Japan game at 5 a.m., of course. But USA, you said first pitch is at 8 a.m.?
Well, no, USA plays late.
Okay.
The schedule is where is it? I got too many windows open, Jeff. There it is. So Team USA plays at 8 o'clock, but You got Cuba, Panama at 11, and then noon is Netherlands, Venezuela, Mexico, Great Britain, and they kind of go an hour. So, theoretically, the first game's 11 o'clock in the morning. If we're on by 9:30, 10 o'clock, somewhere in there, we can talk about those games. I don't know if I'm going to have anything great for you on Cuba, Panama. I can tell you if Cuba's pitching, they're I don't know how to pronounce these guys' names. His last name begins with an M. How about that? So when that guy pitches for Cuba, and he might be pitching in this game, he's a dominant pitcher in the Japanese league, and Panama can't hit already. So that might be a spot where I'm looking at going, holy shit, neither one of these teams can hit. But gosh darn, they got good pitchers. So this is going to be one of those spots where this might be 1-0. So I'm not so we might be looking at unders, or we might be looking at all kinds of crazy things. I know I'm not looking at any unders when Team USA is going to be playing. In this case, Brazil. Now, Team USA could score 20 in this game, depending upon how it all rolls out and all the stuff. And Scooble on the mound. I mean, holy crap! That team, Brazil's. You were talking about the team totals and different things, and you're like, well, it's 14-4, and I'm like, yeah, there ain't no way Brazil's going to score 4 runs off of Scooble, or the next guy that comes in, right? It's just not.
Well, I'm just being facetious. I was making up numbers. I mean,
no, I get it.
Let's be realistic here, though. Scooble only can throw 50 pitches, and 65. I know that 65, and I know
he's scheduled at 55, but
okay,
60. So he'll throw 4.
But my point is, again, unless they get mercied or something, and again, the USA, it could be a 14.5, and the USA team totals. I mean, the run line's 8.5, or 9, and you're saying I'm crazy. Well, then it gets to that 12-2, and then you could have a Brazil team total of over 1.5, and Scooble comes in, lights out, he gets you 5. So and so comes in for the 6th, lights out. So and so comes in for the 7th. Oh, and by the way, in the 9th, here comes Ryan Yarbrough, who was just added for Joe Ryan, and he's gives up 3. I'm just being facetious here, but shit does happen, Scotty. It's baseball.
Hey, the catcher drops the ball, and the guy scores a run, and the fly ball goes up to the right fielder, and it's in the sun, and he misses. All that shit happens in Major League Baseball, man. And don't think that that's not going to be exponentially larger in a tournament like this, where you got a lot of players that aren't Major League Baseball players that are going to make holy crap mistakes, and you're going to go, what the living hell is this? And some of it happened like yesterday. I was watching the Toronto game against Canada, and these teams haven't worked together yet, and it was one of those, let me hit the ball to first base, the pitcher's got to go cover, and Naylor's tossing it to Logan Allen. Well, he just flipped it too far. And Logan Allen didn't catch it, and Toronto scored 2 runs in the first inning because they didn't get that done. So some of that stuff's going to happen. That might even happen to Team USA. It might happen to the Dominican Republic, even though they're good teams. They haven't played together at all. They've had, Team USA showed up. They met each other in the locker room. They went out and kind of exercised together for a day, and then they played yesterday. And then they're going to play today. That's going to be fun if you want to watch that. Of course, they play the Rockies, so that might be playing Panama or somebody. So we'll see what that looks like for Team USA. But they play again tonight. It was fun to watch them yesterday. It's going to be fun to watch them today. And then they play for Rio on Friday against Brazil, and we'll just see. I'm just hopeful that that the good players don't get hurt, and I'm hoping that they play well, so that when you sit there and you go, this is some of the best baseball you'll ever see. It's really the truth, because these are the best players in the world. Some of them aren't there, but most of them are, and like Team USA and Team Dominican Republic. I don't know how much better of a lineups you can put together than those two. Japan has a great lineup. Venezuela's got a great lineup. So, once these teams start playing each other, that's when it really, really gets fun. It's going to be much harder to make bets and do stuff to get there, but they're going to play every day, and we're going to find them. And goddamn, I got a mortgage to pay, so I'm going to bet them.
I'm going to close with this question for you. Again, go follow Scotty at Webby20MLB, substack.com/@Webby20MLB. There's no deeper team in the MLB than the Dodgers, and it's just next man up. And we were talking in June, July, August, even September. Who's going to pitch? Look at this rotation, and then just the light bulb comes on, bing, bang, boom. We're trailing 3-2 against Toronto, by the way, and they ended up winning the World Series. Something happened yesterday. And as I watched the World Series evolve last year, I was like, oh, shit, okay, now I get it. They're going to groom Roki to be the closer. Makes all the sense in the world. Let him be the closer. They still got the lefty back there. You got the lefty-righty combination. And they're going for the three-peat. What do they do as soon as free agency opens? They bring Edmund Diaz in. Well, Roki doesn't get out of the first yesterday, gives up a grand slam. The mental game for Roki is when he's on, we saw it. When he's on, he's lights out. Well, we also saw the other Roki in Toronto kind of fold like a cheap tent. There's a big mental game with Roki. I don't like what I saw yesterday. Obviously, they're going to handle him with kid gloves here. You played in the major leagues. This is a different animal here, Scotty. And the one team that can play it's okay, we'll work through this. What's going on with Roki? Do you see a long-term effect here? Was he just working on a pitch, or should the alarm bells slowly be ringing here, Scott?
Well, here's my thoughts. Roki, so you can do a lot of stuff in spring training. So Roki pitched 2 innings that day. So they took him out, and they put him back in and let him refresh and start over. He was much better the second inning. He actually got the win in that game. So here's the deal. I think I don't remember how old he is. I think he's super, super young. He might be one of these guys that's like, what, 22, 23 maybe? I don't know how old Roki Sasaki is. I think he's really, 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 really young. And that said, a lot of where he's at, when you think about it, if you're that young of a guy and you come from Japan and have to play in the United States and get to a new culture and meet new people and all the other stuff that goes with that.
He's 24. He'll be 25 in November.
So he's got a lot on his plate. So I know he's super young. So that said, I think there's one big thing that you have to determine. I think the Dodgers already have. It's what's wrong with him. My thoughts, it's a mechanical problem with him, and that they're trying to work through certain things with his delivery or certain things where his arm slots are and all this other crap. So when you're a young person and you're trying to deal with all this stuff, it takes a little bit to get used to, and a little bit of coaching and stuff to get better. But everything I've seen and everything I've heard about Roki Sasaki was he really wanted to go to the Dodgers because he felt like the Dodgers as coaches were actually going to teach him stuff and push him to be a better pitcher. So when I think you see these pitchers in great rhythm, great repeatable motions, and it just is flowing naturally, they're super good. Yamamoto does the same thing. He's herky jerky shit, and that stuff can get you out of alignment quick. And when you're out of alignment, you get rocked because your ball doesn't move the way it normally does. So if you have a run of 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 or however many inches it is, and it moves away from a right-handed hitter when you're in normal process, but when you're not in normal process and it only runs 2 inches, well, guess what happens? That 2 inches puts the ball right on the damn barrel of the bat from the hitter, and they smash the shit out of it, as opposed to the ball moving that extra 4 inches and it's off the end of the bat and it makes it an easier out, right? It's not hit as hard. I think that's what you see with Roki. I think you see Roki throwing the ball, fastballs that are 20 foot over somebody's head and shit like that. That's not a mental thing. That's I'm trying to get my thing right where my release points are and all these different things. I think that's going to be fine for his future development in a sense that those are fixable problems. The non-fixable problems are the Steve Sachs at second base yips. You can't fix that shit because that's a mental thing, right? I don't think that Roki has those problems. I think he has, and if he had those problems, here's what I think. I think if he had a mental problem with what's going on, I think the Dodgers wouldn't let him pitch because it would get worse. I think they would try to fix the mental problem before they had him out there pitching. I think that because I think it's a mechanical issue, I think they're trying to work through it.
I'm not saying the stage is too big, but on the mental aspect, is it almost putting too much pressure on himself? Don't forget, he's got the king there, Ohtani. He's got Yamamoto. He wants to be, I don't want to say impress those guys, but he wants to be in that level. And he's, like you said, he's young. So when he gets out there, Ohtani's, just went 4 for 4 with 3 homers. Yamamoto the night before pitches a complete game. Now it's his turn to shine. And is he pressing, I guess? Do you think he could be pressing because of that?
Could be. I mean, it's a very disappointing thing to be the star and then not be able to produce like the star does. And it's a rough mental thing to have to deal with. So, trying to overcome those kind of thoughts per se, even those kind of guys with the confidence levels that are necessary to go with, it's an amazing mental gymnastics that they have to deal with. It's super amazing if you really got into the mind of a closer. The guy goes out there and he's all jacked up. I'm the best guy in the world, and I'm throwing 105, and I can get all these guys out, right? And then you go through 2 weeks where you can't get anybody out and you don't get any runs. It's like, right? But they don't think that way. So the mind of a professional athlete is way different than the mind of a fan. Like 1,000% will tell you a lot of this doubt crap that people talk about, it's not in these guys' heads. They don't think about that stuff. That they're only thinking about productivity. How can I be better? What can I do? And accountability. They know what they're supposed to do, and when they can't do it, they're trying to find out how to do it. Because that's the only thing in their mind. The confidence level that most of these guys have is because that's been something that they've come up with for when they were little kids. And being able to dominate the little leagues and all the other stuff that they were in, they have confidence in themselves. Typically, they don't ever lose that. Even that's why you see a lot of times guys stick around way too long and they get beat up and bombed and all that stuff because the confidence levels. I still get guys out. I don't give a shit how hard I throw. If I just throw the ball right there, they're going to get out. Well, that's kind of the way it is. with major league athletes. That if you go out there and compete at the level that these guys do, and you have any sense of doubt, two things can happen. The most important, worst thing, you can get hurt. I get it. It's Major League Baseball. It's not the most physical thing in the world, but at the same time, if you go out there with doubt and you're trying to do the things the best you can, and you're just wishy-washy and all that stuff, you can physically get hurt. That's number one. But number two, the guy that you're competing against thinks he's the best hitter in the damn world. And he thinks he's going to drive the ball and do this and do that and all that stuff. And his confidence level is sky high. So if you're not playing at those levels, and for young people, I don't know how to say it this way. It's like the Connor Griffin kid that's coming up for the Pirates, right? He's the goddamn 19. He's playing with guys that are 30-something. I don't know about you, and I don't know about most of the people that watch these shows or even think about that. But when you're 19 years old, you're certainly not thinking about competing with 35 years old, 30-year-olds, and guys that have made multi-millions of dollars before. And you've never done it. But if you don't have the confidence in yourself to do it, I think that's probably what was the guy's name for the second baseman for the Orioles, their number one pick, whatever, Jackson Holliday. That he lost confidence because, he went up there and went through that and struggled a little bit. And he's like, I'm not as good as these guys. Goes back to the minor leagues, rips the shit out of the ball, comes back up. Dad helped him, did a couple things, give him more confidence, started hitting the ball better, played a little better last year. See what it looks like this year when he comes back from injury. But it's difficult to play this game and compete when you're 19, 20 years old against these guys that Skeens is not the super oldest guy in the world either, and he's out there just dominating the league. So all of these things happen, and the same thing would be the same case for football, but football is a little different sport in the sense that, you got to have strength and certain other things that help adjust that talent level and confidence level. But quarterbacks go through this, right? If you're a young quarterback and you don't have confidence, you're going to get wiped out. So you need to have that, big confidence edge, and fans don't get it. They go to work and work a 9-to-5 job or whatever. Think about this. If you go work your 9-to-5 job, whatever that is, I don't know, say you're an assembly line worker, a delivery driver, or whatever. If you don't think you're the very best and act like the very best and do the very best every single day, all the time, all the stuff, that's what professional baseball players do. That's what professional football players do. You are trying to be the best at that position, period. And a fan just goes to work, clocks in, does their thing, goes home. I made my money. I did my stuff. I'm going to bet on these guys and yell at them for not being confident.
Me and Scotty will be back on Friday. WBC starts tonight at 10, 2 games tomorrow. Any questions, comments, concerns, go follow Scotty at Webby20MLB. Do yourself a solid, okay? Do yourself a damn solid. Go over there, check out his profile, click the link, substacks.com/A at Webby20MLB. Scotty will take good care of you, sends out information whenever it comes, and we'll be back on Friday to recap what transpired tonight, tomorrow, and then, of course, get you set up for the big slate on Friday. Yes, Scotty?
No, go ahead. I just phone was going off, so I just
okay.
double check. So like NFL stuff, right? And I'm talking about the Substack for a second. NFL stuff. Where do you think I got my data from? I got some of it from the Substack stuff and the people that I subscribe to that put out data that I can't get otherwhere. I almost sound like underwear. So I can't get from other people or free. So look, I'm providing stuff on there. We get, I think the last time there was quote 100 views of this show, or pretty close to 100 views of the show. We don't get that many live, but it ended up being 100 views. I got 9 people that have subscribed to that Substack, which is fine, but why not 100? And I'm not saying, I'm not going to get on a big rant here, but I'm not saying that It's the most important information you'll ever have in your entire life. That's not what I'm saying. But if you want to be a better wager maker, a better better, it requires better information. And I'm putting the data out there. I'm writing articles. I'm showing you what to do. You have the opportunity. If you don't want to talk to me here, or you don't want to talk to me on X, you can talk to me there. Ask me questions. Like I'm willing to do everything I can to help somebody be a better. And it surprises me to no end that people have the gall, if you want to call it that, to critique, to suggest that people are idiots, to do all these different things when they don't even go out of their way to educate themselves. Like, look, be a better. Do things in a way that helps you. And then if you don't like it, you don't want to deal with it, then don't deal with it. But my point is, everybody needs some help at something. And if you don't have time for stuff, it's easy to have with a guy that does have the time and puts the data out there. Blah, 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 don't do what I do. Do what you want to do with it, or whatever. My point being is you're only as good as the information you have to make your bets. It's just like poker. You can't make a quality poker bet without knowing sort of where you're at in the hand, and you're trying to predict and read what's getting ready to happen. Well, the next bit of information helps you clarify that. Well, that's what data does. Data clarifies the information, makes it clearer for you. But if you guys, I'm going to say this the right way, if you guys are all out there, here's a tip for you. If you're all out there and all you want is here's 30 different trends to help you make a bet, just sign up for VSiN's daily email they'll send you. Well, you got to sign up for that. So I don't know. They didn't sign up for a lot of other stuff. Sign up for that. They'll send you their trend thing every day. And you can make bets off trends every day. Or go to covers.com. They have a section in there about game matchups, and you can see 70 different trends every day. But I assure you this, that's not how you make professional bets. It's not what you do. You bet based off of data. You bet based off of line integrity and moves, reading the market, what's good, what's not, and then you make your bets. I assure you, when you learn how to make good bets, you're going to win more of them. When you continually make bad bets, you're going to sit there and go, God damn, I wish I could figure out how to do this, and I need somebody just to give me bets. We don't do that anymore. That's a failed thing. Nobody wants to go out and go, here. We're going to do all the work. You're going to take the we're going to give it to you. Nobody does that. And then they go, well, you can pay for it. No, nobody does that either. You want to pay $5 for that shit. You know, we work a lot harder than $5 for that shit. So here's the truth, right? I'm going to give you everything I got for basically nothing. It doesn't cost you anything. So nobody still does it. So anyhow, point being is, guys, get off your butt. Go do the things that make you better bettors. Go do the things that help. Sign up for things that are free. Get the analysis. Use it. Learn from it. And be a better better. That's all.
Myself and Scotty will be back again Friday at some point early in the morning. Check the timelines there. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Matthew George is back. Sirius XM Sports Grid. Talk some NBA, WNBA, some college hoop, and the Yankee Report. He'll be live from New York City. And then at 1 o'clock, Matt Grissom and Quentin Mills back for week number 4 in college baseball, the NCAA Insiders. And myself and Scotty will be back, of course, on Friday morning. For myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Investor, the one and only Mr. Scotty Webb at Webby20 MLB. Go to his Substack, substack.com/ at Webby20 MLB. Enjoy the WBC tonight and tomorrow, and we'll see you soon. Stay tuned.